Hi, this is Pat Dunn, and I'd like to welcome you to Knowing Your Diabetes. Knowing Your Diabetes is the first part of a diabetes education series. The other segments include checking, where we'll learn about blood sugar, hemoglobin A1C, as well as other things you need to be checking on a regular basis. Healing, and in this we'll focus primarily on how to monitor your blood sugar and how to manage your diabetes. The next section is on moving, which is physical activity, and how that can help you improve your energy balance and keep your blood sugars under control. The next section is on feeding, which is nutrition. We'll focus on carbohydrates, fat intake, as well as meal planning. Trimming is about weight management and energy balance. Minding is on stress management and managing your emotions. And cleansing is focusing on the behaviors that can help you to best manage your diabetes. In this session, Knowing Your Diabetes, we'll focus on what is diabetes, the types and causes of diabetes, the effects of diabetes, signs and symptoms, and then finally myths and key terms that can better help you understand diabetes. Well, diabetes is a condition of having too much energy and of overconsumption. When we have too much energy in our bodies, we have to store it somewhere. We store it in our fat cells. We store it in our blood in the form of cholesterol and triglycerides. And we also store it in our blood in the form of sugar or glucose. So what is diabetes? If our storage problem is with sugar, the result can be diabetes. And it results in blood glucose or sugar levels that are too high, as well as not having enough insulin, which allows glucose to enter the cells to be used for energy. When you have diabetes, your body does not make any or enough insulin. Without insulin, your body cannot use food properly. That is, sugar cannot enter your cells and be used for energy. As a result, sugar builds up in your blood. When you eat, your body breaks down food into sugar. Sugar is used as a source of energy by your body. Sugar travels through your bloodstream to all cells in your body. Sensing what you have eaten, your body releases insulin, which is made by your pancreas. Insulin takes the sugar from the blood into your body's cells to be used for energy. This energy supports all of the body's functions needed to stay alive. So if you look on the graph here, going from left to right, it's the natural progression of diabetes, from obesity to an impaired fasting glucose or an elevated blood sugar, diabetes, and uncontrolled diabetes. So the first graph here shows the insulin levels will drop over time. And at the same time, your blood sugar after you eat, or your post-meal glucose, will increase as the insulin levels decrease. And that'll result also in an increase in fasting glucose, or blood sugar. Often, the pancreas makes some insulin, but your body cannot use it well. This is called insulin resistance. If your body cannot use insulin, sugar cannot enter your cells and be used for energy. Again, sugar builds up in your blood. To help sugar enter the cells, the pancreas tries to make more insulin. For some reason, as if the pancreas gets tired, insulin production eventually slows down. Most people with type 2 diabetes have insulin resistance and defective insulin secretion. That is, your body cannot use the insulin it makes, and your body does not make enough insulin. Insulin and blood sugar or glucose work like a lock and a key. And if the lock doesn't work, the glucose will stay in the blood. That's why you have high blood sugars when you have diabetes. Type 1 or juvenile onset diabetes results from the body's failure to produce insulin, the hormone that unlocks the cells of the body, allowing glucose to enter and fuel them. It is estimated that 5 to 10% of Americans who are diagnosed with diabetes have type 1 diabetes. Type 2 or adult onset diabetes results from insulin resistance, the condition in which your body fails to properly use insulin, combined with relative insulin deficiency. Most Americans who are diagnosed with diabetes have type 2 diabetes. Gestational diabetes affects about 4% of all pregnant women. There are about 135,000 cases of gestational diabetes each year. And if you've ever had gestational diabetes, then your risk of developing type 2 diabetes is significantly higher later in life. Prediabetes or metabetes or the metabolic syndrome really it's a condition in which your body's blood glucose levels are higher than normal, but not high enough to cause type 2 diabetes. Diabetes is literally the tip of the iceberg. While there are 20 million Americans with diabetes, there are 57 million Americans with metabetes or the metabolic syndrome. And the risk factors and conditions related to the metabolic syndrome include obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, low HDL, and elevated fasting glucose. What are the causes of diabetes? Diabetes can be caused by genetics. If mom or dad have diabetes, then you're at much greater risk for diabetes. Lifestyle also plays a role, especially physical inactivity and obesity. And finally, there's a condition called friendly fire. Diabetes is an autoimmune disorder. And so if you've had frequent infections and the use of antibiotics, sometimes the treatment for the infections can actually cross over and destroy some of the cells needed to produce insulin. What are the effects of diabetes? Diabetes is basically a corrosive to blood vessels and to nerves. There are microvascular problems associated with diabetes that affect your eyes, your feet, and your kidneys. The macrovascular effects primarily are on your heart and your brain. In your heart, this results in heart attacks, and in your brain, it can result in a stroke. There is a significant relationship and interrelationship between heart disease, insulin resistance, and diabetes. Insulin resistance is related to high blood pressure or hypertension, obesity, elevated levels of insulin, diabetes, high triglycerides, small dense LDL, low HDL, as well as clotting disorders. What are the symptoms of diabetes? Well, for the symptoms, we have to meet the polys. Your doctor may describe these as polyuria, polydipsia, and polyphagia. What that means in real English terms are frequent urination, unusual thirst, extreme hunger, unusual weight loss, extreme fatigue, and irritability. Symptoms related to type 2 diabetes include any of the type 1 symptoms listed above, as well as frequent infections, blurred vision, cuts and bruises that are slow to heal, tingling, numbness in the hands, and recurring skin, gum, and bladder infections. So now the question is it possible to eliminate diabetes? Well, if you think about it, sending a man to the moon, building an atomic bomb, and discovering insulin, all of these required the vision that it was possible without proof that it could actually be done. There is actually proof that diabetes can be prevented as well as managed correctly. The Diabetes Prevention Program compared individuals under normal care, and we call that the placebo, individuals being treated with metformin, which is a medicine that is designed to treat insulin resistance, as well as intensive lifestyle modification. And the good news is taking metformin reduced the onset of diabetes by 31% and intensive lifestyle training reduced the onset of diabetes by 58%. So diabetes can be prevented, and it can be managed to the extent that it results in much fewer complications. The bottom graph shows how weight played into that. Obviously, very few people in the placebo or usual care group were able to lose weight. The metformin group had a modest weight loss of about 2 pounds, while the intensive lifestyle group had a much more significant weight loss of about 7 to 8 pounds, and they gained some of that weight back. But as you can see, even small reductions in weight, 5 to 10 pounds, can yield very significant and impressive results. How do we do this? Well, we have to attack the foundation of diabetes, and we're going to do this in the next few sections on checking, healing, and living. And the living includes all of the moving, feeding, trimming, minding, and cleansing sections of this series. Well, to get you also started, let's talk about some of the key terms that are important for you to understand. We use a lot of big terms with a lot of letters in them, and it's really helpful to know what they actually mean. Carbohydrates are sources of energy found in our diet, along with fats and proteins, and carbohydrates break down directly into sugar or glucose. So consuming carbohydrates in your diet will significantly increase your blood sugar. Insulin resistance we've already discussed, and it's a condition where your body is unable to use the insulin it's producing. For some reason, as though the lock has been changed, the insulin requirements go up, and your body therefore stops producing enough insulin to do the job. Hemoglobin A1C is a blood test that reflects an average blood sugar over about a 90-day period. So it's a good way to know how well your blood sugar has been controlled. Glucagon is a hormone that works in conjunction with insulin, and glucagon will increase your blood sugars. So just like insulin will make your blood sugars go down because the sugars are going into the cells, glucagon will tell your body to produce more sugar. Ketones are an incomplete breakdown of fat. And basically, if your body is unable to use the glucose that's in the cells because of insulin resistance, then your body does not have any alternative but to start breaking down fat. And this can result in a very serious medical condition called ketoacidosis. So it's important to know how to test ketones and know when to test them. The pancreas is the organ in your body that is charged with producing insulin. And the islet cells are the actual cells within the pancreas that are charged with that task. And in the case of type 1 diabetes, for some reason these islet cells stop producing insulin. Neuropathies are nerve conditions that can occur in your hands and feet as well as in your eyes that can result in blindness as well as amputations. And then finally, a glucometer is the meter that we use to measure blood sugars. And if you have diabetes, you should be checking your blood sugars on a regular basis. Finally, what are the myths related to diabetes? The first one is that diabetes is not a serious condition. Diabetes is potentially a life-threatening condition if not controlled. The good news is that we know if it is controlled, that it can result in very good outcomes. But you should never take diabetes lightly. It is something that you need to pay attention to literally every day of your life. The next myth is that only fat people have diabetes. That is not true. While obesity is a significant risk factor for diabetes, there are many thin people who just unfortunately have genetic predispositions to diabetes. Another one is that people with diabetes cannot eat sweets. That is not true. You just have to account for the sweets, whether it be through medicine or insulin, you can counteract the result of the carbohydrates in the sweets with medicine or with insulin. And then finally, the myth that insulin is a cure for diabetes. Insulin is a treatment of diabetes, but ultimately a cure for diabetes would be preventing the condition which leads to the inability to produce insulin in the first place. So while insulin is necessary for life, and supplementing your insulin if you have diabetes is necessary for life, it is not a cure. We still need to work hard and figure out a way to cure diabetes. The next section will be on checking your diabetes. And this will include learning about your blood sugar, your hemoglobin A1C, your blood pressure, cholesterol and other lipids, as well as checking your feet, checking your eyes, and checking your kidneys. Thank you very much.